Hello everyone, my name is Yuri Filipovsky, and I'm the lead balance designer. You all know about the current situation in the world, so this video will be an experimental video conference format. We want to tell you about a new feature called Equipment 2.0. In a couple of days after this video releases, the Sandbox server will be launched, and we would like you to participate in testing and share your feedback with us.
The Sandbox server in World of Tanks is a range of sorts, where we test the most complex and nuanced mechanics in conditions that are as close to real as possible. We are gathering feedback, looking into player behavior during testing and conducting surveys. The players influence the future of the game with both their word and their actions. They help define what mechanics need improvement, what has to be removed, and what can be added to the game.
Hello, my name is Igor. I'm a game designer.
Hello, my name is Anton, and I'm a game balance designer. Let me tell you about the main changes that were made to the game interface. The main changes were made to the lower panel of vehicle equipment. Modules were removed from here, and the appearance of equipment has changed. It's now showed as cards. Consumables look the same, as do directives, and now shells have additional information, and the text size is bigger, making it easier to read. Modules can be changed in the research window as before. This is the IS-7, so it only has one set of modules. But if we take a vehicle that has several sets of modules, for example the M4A 3E8 Sherman, we can still change the configuration of its turret, engine, and gun just like we used to.
Anton, could you show us how all of this will look for lower tier vehicles? Like, take a Tier 1 vehicle, for example, please.
Sure, let's look at Tier 1. I happen to have the Cruiser Mark I in my garage. This is what it looks like.
We will probably have to explain what's happened here.
It's all gone, Chief!
What happened here is the number of equipment slots was reduced to 0. The slots for consumables and directives are also gone.
We will of course explain why this has happened. Currently, we observe several trends that we would like to change.
It's hard for new players to figure out the game mechanics, particularly equipment, consumables, and directives. The more experienced players who own and mount various pieces of equipment have a substantial advantage over the newer players. Another peculiarity of the current system is that the equipment at low tiers is pretty expensive. Players have to play tens or even hundreds of battles in low-tier vehicles to purchase it. At the same time, it's much easier to earn credits for equipment in high-tier vehicles, and its cost looks much more reasonable compared to the cost of the vehicle. The other issue is related to assortment. For example, in the current system there are only several popular equipment types. The absolute favorites are the gun rammer, improved ventilation, gun laying drive, gun stabilizer, camo net, and the binocular telescope. The others are practically not used. Additionally, there is currently a lot of equipment that has the same effect but at different prices. And this equipment fits different vehicles. 20-odd types of enhanced suspension, 4 types of gun rammer. This may not only confuse you, but simply forces you to spend credits to purchase new equipment when switching vehicles. This leads to another issue, a lack of configuration diversity. Generally, one of 3 basic combinations is used, no matter the vehicle type: gun laying drive, improved ventilation, gun rammer, gun stabilizer, improved ventilation, gun rammer, or gun stabilizer, gun laying drive, gun rammer. Our statistics tell us that any other configuration is a rare sight. And finally, most equipment types currently improve characteristics related to the vehicle's firepower. Very few equipment items affect the maneuverability or survivability, for example. So it turns out that light and medium tanks can't improve some of their key characteristics.
As all of the listed issues are pretty complex and interconnected, it means that the new features that we are planning to add to the game may affect several game aspects at the same time: interface, economy, gameplay, and others.
Speaking of decreasing the number of equipment and consumable slots for low tiers, we have simplified the gameplay considerably. We are now looking at Tier 1, and it only has shells, but Tier 2 already has an additional slot for equipment and another for consumables.
Thanks to these changes, we decrease the difference between a player who has all the equipment available mounted on their vehicle and a new player who doesn't even have a proper crew. They will still have the advantage in the playing experience if they have any, but the technical difference will be smaller, especially at lower tiers.
It's also worth noting that the number of slots will grow with the tiers. At Tier 2, there will be 1 slot for equipment and consumables. At Tier 3, there will be 2 of each, and so on. And by Tier 5, all of the usual slots for equipment, consumables, and directives will fully return.
Yes, and this system implies that the difference between players at lower tiers will be the skill level.
Many equipment items were divided into 3 classes to solve the issue of the high cost at low and middle tiers in the current system. For example, if we take a Tier 2 vehicle and try mounting something on it, we will see that the items cost no more than 50,000 credits and have Class 3 in the name. It's the lowest one. Let's take improved ventilation for example. It will be available for 50,000 credits, and it gives the standard 5% bonus. If we go to a mid-tier vehicle, let's say Tier 6, and try mounting something here, we will see that all the items cost around 200,000 credits. They have Class 2 in the name, the middle one, and they have the same bonus. And a Tier 10 vehicle, like the Botshot 25, can access Class 1 equipment. It costs 600,000 credits on average. But if some equipment costs less and was available for the vehicle, like the Class 2 improved ventilation was available for the Botshot, then it will have the same cost as before. It will not become more expensive.
Like Anton said, we couldn't divide all equipment by class. We have some exceptions. Mainly, these exceptions are related to some equipment having different categorization, like spall liners.
Yes, Yuri, let me explain a bit more. The spall liners are now divided into 4 types. Basically, it's the same as before. There are light, medium, heavy, and super heavy ones. Speaking of exceptions, we should also mention the camouflage net now has 2 classes. The cheaper camo net will cost 50,000 credits, and the one that's available for the top vehicles will cost 100,000. The vertical stabilizer, as before, will not be available for all vehicles, for example, for TDs or vehicles of lower tiers. The Class 2 stabilizer will be able for mounting on mid-tier vehicles, and the Class 1 vertical stabilizer will be available for vehicles of tiers 8 to 10.
So, it will not have Class 3.
That's right. The same system is available for the new equipment that can only be mounted on the mid and top tier vehicles.
The various equipment items that affected suspension durability were gathered together into one piece, so we now have just one type instead of 21 as before, and it has 3 price variants. It can be installed on all vehicles, so you will not have to purchase additional equipment to improve the suspension if you switch your vehicle. Change is good, of course, but we've added a lot of new equipment items and changed how some of the old ones worked in some places. Anton, show us what's new at the low tiers.
For example, at Tier 2, there is a way to improve your accuracy and engine power, as well as the concealment, independent on whether the vehicle is moving or stationary.
So even low-tier vehicles have new equipment, and the high-tier ones have plenty more.
If we take a Tier 10 light tank as an example and try to find something to improve its scouting ability, we can see there are a lot of new items here. For example, you could increase the time the enemy vehicle is spotted, or decrease the time you were spotted yourself, improve your ability to spot moving enemies, and so on.
And what about the old ones? We did change a lot of the old equipment items.
Let's take the wet ammo rack. Its effect was improved considerably. The bonus to durability used to be 50%, now it's 100%. We also decreased the penalty for the damage ammo rack and added a unique effect that prevents the player's ammo rack from exploding.
This is not the only change that we made to all equipment, far from it. And we have new items. There'll be a lot to play with and figure out.
Anton, let's show the equipment that allows players to increase the hit points of their vehicles. Let's use the mouse as an example.
What an unexpected choice.
Yes, the mouse. The most durable vehicle in the game has many equipment items that can increase its survivability. There are the old faithfuls, like the spall liners, and the new ones, like the improved consumables and its increased hit points. So the mouse has 3,000 hit points by default, and if we mount this equipment to it, it will receive 150 additional hit points. Considering the good armor that it has, these 150 hit points may help win a battle.
It just so happened that historically most of our equipment items affected mainly the firepower of the vehicle, and thus the influence on all vehicle characteristics was not really balanced. To solve this issue, We diversified the equipment assortment considerably in the parts that relate to other characteristics, because the firepower part already feels pretty good as it is. Anton, show us what new categories we have now.
Taking the IS-7 as an example, we can see that it has different icons and different slots that say that this slot belongs to a category. In this case, the first slot has the special category of survivability, the second has mobility, and the third one doesn't have any. On the bot shot, for example, the first one has the mobility specialization, and the second one is scouting. On the STRV-103, it's scouting and firepower.
Do these specializations depend on the vehicle type?
They depend on both the vehicle type and its role. The IS-7 had survivability and mobility, whereas the Mouse had survivability and survivability. Both vehicles are Tier 10 heavy tanks, but they are played very differently.
And for the Mouse, I will be able to only mount the survivability equipment in these slots?
If we try to mount something there, we will see that we have all equipment available in both the first and second slots, and the latter one doesn't have a category. The difference is that the first slot provides an increased bonus to characteristics. Say in this slot this equipment item gives plus 50%, and this one only plus 30%.
I'd like to add about bounty and improved equipment. They already have an increased bonus compared to the standard equipment. Therefore, the bounty and improved equipment items will not benefit from the slot bonus.
Yes, if we look at the extended spare parts kit, it adds the same bonus, irrespective of which slot I choose. At the same time, its standard counterpart, the toolbox, adds 35 in the category slot and 25 in the normal slot.
So it means that we can now create different equipment sets for one vehicle to play different objectives?
Yes, if we take the Mouse and build it for survivability, we can mount the toolbox in the third slot. The increased hit points go in the first slot, and the second one will have the spall liner. This will be one equipment set. Or we can mount something for firepower in the empty slot. Let's say it will be a gun rammer. And we'll mount the fill tanks with CO2 in the survivability slot to avoid being set ablaze. We can ignore the category of the first slot and have a stabilizer there, for example.
Well, I guess we'll have to make a manager for these builds next to be able to save them and switch between them quickly. So, brace yourselves.
We keep talking about the Moss Butlet switch to the Botshot 25T for a minute. I think we can make a build which boosts both firepower and gun handling, for example. Hey, let's try to make a build like that, Anton.
Let's try. Ventilation is an easy pick, considering the match with the slot. Both the vents and the slot have mobility, so this will provide an increased bonus. The stabilizer in the second slot will allow an increase in shooting accuracy, and we can use either the existing gun laying drive or the new sighting gear for increased accuracy when fully aimed. This will be the build for firepower with increased firing accuracy and a slightly faster magazine reload.
You may probably also need better view range and mobility in teamfights.
Yes, let's build the Scout Hybrid. Put everything into view range and concealment.
Let's use filters, Anton, so that we only see what we need.
Sure, let's apply filters. For mobility, we can mount the increased maximum speed, or the increased engine power, or the increased traverse speed while moving. The Botshot has a very good specific power, but it could still use an increase to its maximum speed. Let's give it an extra plus 6 km/h to the top speed. This will bump it to 71 km/h. The second slot has the scouting specialization, and the Botshot has 6 different items for scouting. There are the old types of optics and the new ones. Here, the improved radio looks quite interesting, as it will increase the time that enemies are spotted, which will be useful for the Botshot. And in the third slot, as it has no category, we can mount something that we liked before but didn't have the opportunity to use. It can be, let's say, additional grousers, which provide a boost to the hull traverse speed and allow us to hit to the maximum speed faster.
Basically, the possibilities here are endless.
Yes, so what we have here is that at higher tiers, 2 slots have a category, but it's not mandatory. It doesn't force players to mount this exact type of equipment there. You can use anything you want. However, in that case, you will not receive a bonus in that category, but there's no penalty either. The equipment will work as intended.
Basically, you can even leave all your equipment as you have it now.
Yes, sure. But on the other hand, I'd strongly recommend trying and playing around with the categorized slots.
At least on the Sandbox, yes?
Exactly.
Now you can set your vehicles up in very different ways, depending on either your playstyle or the game modes that you're going to play.
You probably have questions about the equipment conversion process. It's a really important issue, and our main goal in this case is that players do not lose anything during the conversion. I'm talking about both the certain equipment items and its cost in credits. Of course, all old equipment items will be converted to the new ones, and the conversion will happen considering the peculiarities of the new system.
Also, you shouldn't worry about improved equipment. It'll be moved to the depot for free. Additionally, when the conversion happens on the main server, every player will receive a certain number of demounting kits.
As we already said, it's not guaranteed that everything we're testing on the Sandbox will be released. It's a place for experiments after all, and a way to share our ideas with you.
Exactly. We are sharing our hypotheses with you, studying them and improving them, so your opinion will also influence the final state of the new equipment in the game.
Come play in the Sandbox, leave your feedback, participate in testing, and fill out the survey. See you soon!